Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Viktor Frankl, an Auschwitz survivor. I want to welcome you to or back to the channel, Crystal Clear. Here on these episodes, on this podcast, we speak all things spiritual. In a world where we get caught up with grief and hustle and the bustle and the heartache, we often forget that's exactly why we signed up. It's in this duality through the challenges that our biggest growth happens. In today's episode, I want to highlight the gift of being human, and that in the gift of being human, in being this matrix, we're also allocated this thing called time. That is the stimulus and response. There is a space, the space that we have been gifted. When I read this quote, it validated the opportunity to talk about this gift. Now, I haven't really spoke much about this subject. And this is in reference to my own struggles with addictions. I am an ex-smoker / vapor, and I abused Adderall for many, many years, to the point that I couldn't function without it. So I want to say, and I have held back on the subject because I never want to induce fear. That is the furthest thing from my mission. However, I am going to talk briefly on it, and maybe I will go further into it in many aspects, because there is a lot that circumferences this. But today, I want to primarily speak about that gift of time. When it came time, by the time I reached this consciousness about laying down my addictions, I had done a lot of internal growth. I've gone through a lot of stuff, and I had the beautiful experiences. I've had many supernatural experiences of seeing my light, of remembering who I am. And in that acknowledgement, I'm not my addiction, and you are not your addiction. That's first something beautiful to clarify. And addiction is a powerful chains and bonds to our energy. As I would further discover, it might, again, desperate, might seeking with all my heart of truth. And again, I'm not even going to claim this as truth, but it was what they needed to deliver to me. They, being my spirit guides, the God, what they permitted me to see, so that I could actually have the light or the fire lit underneath my ass, if you will. So when it came time for me to give up my addictions, I had heard many times in AA that they would pray to Jesus or God, and they would wake up, and the need, the lift was just like, it was gone. And they promised to live their life for God and Jesus or whatever. I'd heard it many times. So I began praying, because God knows that addictions are hard. Thus, addiction, it is something that you have become dependent on. And I started meditating, and I started asking, and I started doing the visualizations and the whole 9 yards, every technique of reclaiming my energy the best I could. Still, I couldn't find myself able to, or better yet, didn't seem that Jesus wanted to release or break in those bonds. Now, as I've had many supernatural experiences, this is one I will share. And again, disclaimer, this is not to shed fear. If you are dealing with addictions, if you're dealing with your own, maybe this can just give you a different insight. But for me, it was seeing and being able to drop into a frequency about where we give our energy. I experienced a special kind of hell, if you will. And again, I'm not going to go into much detail, but I want to have you imagine, if you will, a place where there is no time. If time is all an illusion, on the other side, it's all simultaneously, it's all happening now and has, did, and will. Imagine trying to place your consciousness there. Imagine having a desire, a yearning, a craving for something. The addiction is irrelevant. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's doom scrolling and you can't put it down, to a substance, to a toxic relationship. What consumes your energy. Now, in that same breath, imagine getting your hit, getting your kick. Imagine getting that desire fulfilled, your instant gratification there. And then imagine in the same breath, the shame, the guilt, the heavy burden of the inability to say no. Now imagine all of this simultaneously happening at the exact same moment. The yearn, the desire, the need, the hit that's so instant gratification, it's so fleeting. It doesn't last because there's no such thing as time, only to come back to this guilt and shame of heavy burden in the inability to say no. To me, it came twofold in this download, this experience, if you will. One, Einstein said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I also would like to say, I think that's a special kind of hell. It was a hell that I have found myself bounded to. And what is hell? What is this? It's a state of consciousness into where I was giving my power away. And when you're in this frequency, if you will, and my beliefs being that I think that the same reason that Jesus can be, or our angels, spirit can be with me and with you and everybody else around the world all out simultaneously, is because there is no time and space. And likewise, kind of like a deck of cards, our spirit, which is much bigger than the 52, can be everywhere. And I had this maybe epiphany or fear for myself that maybe a part of my soul was trapped in a special kind of hell. And in this moment, it lit a fire underneath me to give it up. And in this particular instance, it was towards nicotine. I have a story for Adderall, and maybe I'll share that with you guys if you would like. I do want to say, especially, I can just speak to Adderall and the nicotine. Like, I promise you, especially Adderall, because it messes with everything up here. If you are on the journey, hold strong. I promise you, healing is possible, and it can feel like a very long, long journey. Coming full circumference to my experience. Whether this is true or not, it scared me. I hate using the word fear, but it was enough to light a fuel under my ass. And for the first time recognizing, if this was why, and this is my own thoughts, if this is why I came here, if this is one of the many growths, opportunities I had, I can see that if I can graduate from this lesson here, maybe I will be given my freedom on the other side when I go home. Because heaven forbid, if there's a state of my consciousness, which I do believe is our state of hell or heaven, even if it's just one slice of that card, that I'm stuck to that addiction when I cross over, I don't know how, other than through the grace of God and the divine and Jesus and whoever else could save me from my own consciousness, could relieve me from that. But I also know we don't know how powerful we are until we do the work. So, what I'm trying to get at with all this. If there's no time, no space, how do we have a chance to have that stimuli, that drive, that nerve, that desire, and a response if there is no space? Thus, the beauty and the gift of time. I want to bring this forward, an opportunity for maybe you to perceive how time and our response rather than reaction is a gift. It is genuinely the opportunity to choose a different response, to choose a different action so that we can find our growth and our freedom. And because if you've ever gone through the addiction, the yearning doesn't go away at night, or it never did. In fact, there's still times, very much today, I still crave a hit. What keeps me from it is recognizing I don't have another quit. Was what got me through, and this is what I want to highlight. There's a state of unconsciousness that's also a gift when we are overcoming these things. In that, for me, I binged on a lot of watermelon, and I had toothpicks to get me through that nicotine, my loves. I had to tap out unconsciously. I had to distract myself from the addiction, if you will. And that's how I did it until I could get a bit more grips of my own energy back. And in that moment, by being able to tap out and not being chained to the addiction and yes, it still consumes you, but you have time, you have a space and a choice. And every time for me that I wanted to go grab a cigarette or my vape, it was a lot of watermelon to try to replace the dopamine and the stimuli, yes, and the hand coordination with a toothpick. And while that doesn't seem like a big deal here on the 3D in this matrix, because I think a lot of us do that, I just had hoped, I'm hoping to bring this story forward, not to fear-base you, but to really maybe fine-tune the idea of how fortunate we are in the gift of time and what coming here, yes, it's very dense energy. Yes, it's also things that we can ricochet here. If you've ever heard this before, I just saw 1313. We come here because we can ricochet our expansion. I believe that because here we experience a duality, but moreover, not only in the duality, we have that time, we have that space, and I don't know that we often consider that. I will probably come forward with more of my stories. There's a lot more that encapsulates the spiritual aspect of addictions. But what I do want to lay forward is this. It's a level of consciousness where we allocate and expend our energy, where we give our energy, and above all else, knowing that we've been given the time and the space as a gift to choose differently in a place where maybe that choice response is forgotten because you're so caught up in a now that never gives you a before or after. I'm sending so much love and light to you guys. If this has resonated, if it helps you in any way, if it gets just ideas, right? The philosophy of life, of spirituality, let me know by rating and sharing on the podcast, Spotify or Apple, on YouTube. Above all else, make sure you subscribe to join the tribe. I love you guys so much. Addiction is not for the weary. But if you've been given it, if you deal with addiction, know that you also have the power to overcome it. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of my story, and I hope it helps. somebody, even if it's just a different perception. And until next time, I'm wishing you guys all love and light, strength on your own journey, gratitude for the time to respond different and give up our reactions. Loving you guys. Mwah. Namaste.